Mahadevi Verma says, विस्तृत नभ का कोई कोना, विस्तृत नभ का कोई कोना, मेरा न कभी अपना होना, परिचय इतना इतिहास यही, उमड़ी कल थी मिट आज चली. And another favorite poet of mine, Galib, he says, आईना क्यों न दूं कि तमाशा कहे जिसे, आईना क्यों न दूं कि तमाशा कहे जिसे, ऐसा कहां से लाऊं कि तुझसा कहे जिसे. हसरत ने ला रखी तेरी बज़्म ख्याल में, गुलदस्ता निगाह सुवेदा कहे जिसे. फूंका है किसने गोशे मोहब्बत में ए खुदा, फूंका है किसने गोशे मोहब्बत में ए खुदा, अफसन इंतजार तमन्ना कहे जिसे. Good evening and welcome to Sheetala's Conversation, Sunday evening 7 p.m. show. This is your host, Jugal Koul. Once again, I feel very much pleased and happy to welcome all my associate followers of Sheetala's Conversations who are in this journey, in this odyssey. We all together are moving to explore our civilization in its length and breadth, in its depth, pick up some brighter spots, pick up some unknown spots, and just reveal them through a very great articulation and scholarship and integrity, and bring forth some treasures, some bounties for our future generations. It's an anecdotal format, and we convey it in the most storytelling fashion. So I'm once again indebted to everyone for joining tonight's show. Having said that, we have been, if we go and measure and meander around this whole edifice, which we have traveled since 3 years, those beacons, those wonderful people who came here as a guest, people of great integrity, people of great knowledge, people of great education, and they made this entire this wonderful archival library very enriching one. It's available on YouTube. People can go there. People normally they call me many times, several times, and they want to know something about some videos there. It's a research material. It's also a material said in a very, very informally formal connotation, communication. So that's how it is. And we have been doing things we've been talking about the folk memory, culture, traditions, paintings, art, literature, musicology, colors, rainbows, peaks, ecology, environment, travelogues, treatises, chronicles, ancient wisdoms, contemporary wisdoms, Kashmiris who moved out from Kashmir since centuries, and they're rising to the eminence, position of eminence, and their contributions in literature, music, politics of the country, and the most greatest of the legends of our traditions who in the much earlier time, in the ancient times, who got and traveled across and took this wisdom, oriental wisdom, in a way from this land which has always been known as crown and cradle of Indian civilization. It has a special corner. I mean, in the Indic kingdoms, they expanded and vanished several times, but this particular kingdom always remained there. There were some blessings on it. But somehow, moving ahead, I would like to say that we have also been able to bring very, very unknown areas and untouched areas. Like we got a subject on R.C. Kak, former Prime Minister of India. We talked about great bureaucrats who shaped the country's formation in the formative years, Kashmiri bureaucrats, and the role of Kashmiris in the freedom struggle of India, role of Kashmiris in the film industry. And we were people like Kashinath Pandita and people like Padamshri Kashinath Pandita, Avtar Motajis. And we have Rakesh Kaul and Subhash Kak, the greatest Indologist. He came out. And we talked about the Kashmir Shaivism. We talked about Even Zarif Ahmad Zarif came and he talked about his own institutional understanding about Kashmir and the olden days. And we had many areas we went into. But yet again, I want to say that despite of that, 108 shows, yet I feel that we are just crawling, and there's enough of material if we try to, because lot of it was destroyed. But yet again, the references of Kashmir, not only in the scriptures, in the books of the modern times, who travelers wrote, but also and the references in places like and Far East, Iran, Iraq, Russia, Europe, from the ancient times. It's very amazing, and it's an endless story. So it's a continuous journey. So once again, I feel that we are here once again to pick up something, as that DP Dhar used to say, "Men and matters" in his columns in earlier times. So we're going to pick up something, and this is the first day of the last month of 2024, and it has its own significance, and because we are just moving into the winter, and winter, all winter, and we love the sun, basking into sun. I wish you all that you guys have a good sun rays, and it's not clouded, it's not eclipsed by the clouds, and we enjoy this. Today, once again, we are going to pick up a very important story of very important and a very eminent personality, eminent educationist of Kashmir, Professor Triloki Nath Dhar, who was a professor of zoology and botany, and he has been teaching. We are going back into that 1950s, 60s, and 70s, where he has been teaching in different colleges, from Amar Singh College to the SP College. And he has a great legacy, and certainly we are going to visit and fly down to those times, and just try to re-establish his personality and the time around him, and his style, and his family, his other aspects and other dimensions of his character and personality and knowledge and teaching in all aspects, and the place from which he belongs to. So one other great thing about that gentleman is that he is a centurion, and he went for his this journey, heavenly journey, this year only probably, and he at the age of 102, and SP College has given a kind of honorarium certificate in his favor, because he was the teacher, the great teacher of this wonderful institution. So that's how it's going to be. And today we have with us none other than who owns this great legacy of this wonderful Professor Triloki Nath Dhar. That's his son, his able and brilliant son, Vijay Darji. And we have invited him not only to talk about the legacy of his father, we also invited him to go into the other arenas as well. He is a former IITian. Vijay Dhar Sahab is a former IITian who owns this proud legacy of his eminent father, Professor Triloki Nath Dhar. He's a multifaceted native of Kashmir, settled in the Silicon Valley, USA. That is his karma bhumi, I can say. We talk in the local language. And born in a historical village like Vaicharnag. Vaicharnag is a great history. I've heard about the Kalhana and many other things, the Kushanas, the Buddhist conference or something like that. I don't know. I've not very deeply studied that, but that is a reference I got from somewhere. And he has been a former alumnus of DAV school, and then the Amar Singh College, which was basically an Amar Singh Institute and later on became an Amar Singh College, and Srinagar and Delhi University. And he's been a student of Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. He's been a pioneer in the nascent semiconductor industries in India. That is something very, very extraordinary about him. And we are fortunate to work under, he was fortunate to work under the command of former President APJ Abdul Kalam Sahab. And he has worked in the senior leadership position capacities in the diversified areas in Intel Corporation in US for approximately last 3 decades. As a proactive native Kashmiri, in US, he has played a significant role through Kashmiri Overseas Association in recapturing the bonhomie and cultural identity amid the diaspora at Silicon Valley since last 6 years. He has, uh, enormously worked for the Spiritual Heritage Preservation Initiative of Kashmiri Overseas Association. In a departure from the semiconductor industry, of which he was part before his superannuation, probably he took a superannuation. He now plays a very meaningful voluntary role in accelerating the process of clean energy transition for the landmark 100th Earth Day year in 2070, and so that is the landmark, that is the benchmark, rather, we can say. And he has relentlessly devoted his life in exploring Kashmir's own indigenous ancient wisdom, Kashmir Shavas, and utilizing its effectively in overcoming the 21st century societal challenges, which he explains that those challenges which arise from science, technologies, public health, regarding public health and aesthetics. So we are going to talk about all these aspects. So let's welcome into the studio uh, Vijay Dhar Sahab, the eminent personality, and we are very honored to bring him into the studio. Sir, you are welcome into the Shitalath Conversations 108th illustrious historic show. It's a great pleasure to have you in our show.
Namaskar, Jugalji. So fortunate and so privileged to be part of your show. I'm not as eminent as so many of your guests, but I will try my best to explain what humble contributions I have made and my experiences, shared my experiences. And again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I really feel this is a privilege for me.
Thank you, Mara. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. It's your humility and magnanimity. And really, once again, we are very honored to have you with us. And before we begin, as per our structure of program, we normally take our guests to the days spent in Kashmir. And you have spent, probably, you were born in Vaicharnag, such a great place, and probably your father, your family hails from there. And before we come to your father, let's know about your witness, what you have witnessed since childhood up to the time you were in Kashmir, like the institutions you went, the festivals, the traditions, the culture, landscape, village, and Srinagar as well. Vaicharnag is a suburb of Srinagar. Now it is part of Srinagar. So let's know about all these wonderful anecdotes and stories about your childhood and till the time you were in Amar Singh College and finally you went to the Delhi University.
Thank you, Jugalji, again. Yes, actually, those were fantastic days, and those memories are never going to get erased. Um, so, the earliest I remember is my days in Vaicharnag, where we used to have this Navare Maos one day before Navare. And that used to be, as a small little kid, 6-year-old, that used to be the greatest event that we used to always look forward to for the whole year, because that was where Vaicharnag was at the center of the valley. And there was a festival or fair that we used to have, Navare Maos. Who used to come to sell Nadir Munji, and he used to come on a radar, and that scene is kind of embedded in my head. And this lots of people used to come previous day and then stay with us. There were very few families who used to live there those days, and now, of course, it's overflowing with population. But those days there were a few mohallas. There was a Dar mohalla, and there was a Khar mohalla, and there was a Kokar mohalla, and there were a few mohallas only, and a few Muslim mohallas also, but mostly Pandit mohallas. And we used to that used to be the center of attraction for those few days. And I think Vaicharnag, something I did not know at that time, and now I know, is that Vaicharnag has got a very rich heritage. It was not only the birthplace of Shri Bhatt, who cured Badshah of
Oh,
his duties. He had a shop in Navhata, but that was a shop. It's still there. It's still called Shribat. Now they call it Sheribat, but it used to
no, they
be.
call it Sheikh.
Now they call it Sheribat, but it was Shribat. But he used to live in Vicharanag. And then also Acharya Utpal Dev, who was this, Kashmir Shaivism second scholar next to Abhinav Gupta, greatest
Yes,
fame. And, he was born there. So, yes, I mean, Vitarnag has and of course, above all, being on Navarimava's day, because we had the fair here, it was for a reason, because this was the place where they used to actually create the Jantri or Panchang.
Panchang. Yeah,
Panchang according to the Saptarishi calendar. And that
Saptarishi.
Saptarishi calendar, of course, is the oldest calendar, 5,100 years this year. 5,100 years, which is the oldest. And it's a centenary year, actually, for Saptarishi calendar this year. So, yeah, that was the greatest legacy. It was the concept of time that kind of evolved and got shaped there in this village. And it, of course, lost its glory during the Pathan rule. And thanks to the Maharajas, they
Yeah,
rebuilt structures there, and
deacons.
they basically were.
Shankaracharya has also visited this place. It is
Yes,
said that
I
Shankaracharya.
believe he did. That's what I have also read. And also, in fact, when after the Pathans were gone and the Sikhs came, uh, you know, uh, the first few people, scholars, Kashmiri scholars who
Maharaja
came
Ranjit
back,
Singh's time.
yeah, Maharaj Ranjit Singh's time, some in 1860 and all, some scholars came back and they actually went and stayed in Vicharna because of the importance it had. So yeah, I did not know of all this. All I remember is the Navri Mawas fair and everybody coming and halwai coming in the Reda and selling Nadim Manji there. So
Oh, that's
that
so
was
wonderful. As a child, you are all, I mean, you have all these infancy days and you are, I mean, attracted to those things. And later on, you understand the place you belong. Place consciousness comes on later on and you start knowing and understanding the history. I've also heard that Buddhist conference was also held there, the fourth Buddhist conference. I don't know how far it's true.
well, I mean,
Kanishka?
obviously, when a big event like that happens, the entire city, in fact, the entire state gets involved, right? It's like
Yes.
G20. It's like G20.
G20. Yeah.
So at that time, it was such a big event that entire city got involved, and there was some events happening everywhere. But my understanding was that it was mainly in the Harvan area that the main conference happened.
That was the main area, Harvan and Buddhist area
Harvan,
that is very
right?
well
And
known.
and
Tiles,
and
Harvan tiles, and everything.
yeah. And Vaicharnag was just on the other side of Dal Lake. If you really look at it, as a crow flies, there's hardly any distance between Harvan and Dal Lake.
Anchar Lake,
Anchar
adjacent to
Lake
Anchar.
further behind. Anchar Lake is further behind. Uh,
Okay.
Anchar Lake is beyond Vaicharnag on way to Tulumul, but Dal Lake, Dal Lake was just separating a small part of Dal Lake was separating Harvan and Vaicharnag. It still is the case because geography doesn't change. But yeah, it was not that far. So it was that whole area was actually part of the Buddhist peak of Buddhism what happened in that area.
It was and it's a theme. And Buddha was considered always to be Vishnu avatar in Kashmir. They used to call him Vishnu avatar, like Rama and Krishna.
Hmm.
Uh, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, please elucidate, sir, further. I mean,
yeah. So that was about Vaicharnag, and then we moved from Vaicharnag to Bal Garden, and my dad was already a professor in SP College. He, as you said, was a very influential person there in the sense that he you know taught so many students. Every student who did pre-medical also did studied under him, because there were not that many schools or colleges there those days. So in fact, SP College was the only men's or boys college, where they used to teach pre-medical, because Amar Singh College they were not teaching. So my dad was not teaching in Amar Singh College, but only in SP College, because he was pre-medical. So, and then he also taught in women's college.
Women's
As you said, he was recognized on his 103rd birthday by his students who were on Facebook, and he got lots and lots of you know how lots of respect from his students on
Yeah.
that event, and they celebrated the event with us. It was COVID time those days, but everybody was online, so it did not matter whether you were in Srinagar or Silicon Valley. Everybody was online. So
They
yeah,
have this honorarium there. Na? This is
that's right.
the letter of honor they have
Yeah,
presented to the
Dr.
professor.
Yeah,
Sir.
Dr. Rizvi from Department of Botany. So Professor Dhar, my dad was the head of the Department of Botany. He was
Okay.
the one who started botany department in SP College.
SP College.
Yes.
Oh.
So anyway, so he had a lot of influence. So when I introduce myself to anybody from Kashmir, I tell him that I'm his son because that's how they place me. My own accomplishments are not as big as his, so people know him more than they know me. So yeah, I mean, one thing that I really recall from those days is in 1953 DNA had been discovered.
Oh,
And as you know, DNA is the influence or changed everything in science, particularly biology, botany, and zoology, and all.
revolutionized everything. Yeah.
Revolutionized everything. So, and then there was a delegation from UNESCO, from United Nations, professors who were involved in DNA research and stuff. They came to Kashmir to teach the professors in Kashmir. So my dad was also a student of. I mean, those days he was a young professor, so he also learned from that delegation of professors, and he brought those books home. And when I saw those books, I was just glued to them. I was only 12 years old or 10 years old, 10 or 12 years old, something like that. I was very little, but it created a quest for science for me right from those days. It kind of put me on that path. And I wanted to study physiology, and which I did for some time. But then I ended up doing physics and technology, semiconductors. But I remember how that event was big in my childhood. That these professors from
They
US
came in
came.
and they
They
gifted the books,
taught
and you, yeah,
and I cherish those
was
books.
smitten by those book
Right.
covers and the subjects. Yeah,
Yeah, glossy books, glossy pages, very different
classic
from
page,
what I had seen there.
glossy.
Yeah.
You
So
you studied in Amar Singh College as well as in the DAV school. You must have some memories there as well.
yeah, DAV school. I think my biggest, more most cherished memory there is my teacher's science teacher Pranath, who used to teach physics. He's the one who navigated me away from physiology to physics, and
Physics.
he was a great storyteller, and he used to teach physics as a story. And
Oh my goodness, such geniuses
he was such a
teaching
good.
physics in a story way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And and then the other one who was, I think, most influential over there in my life was Janakinath Kaul, who
Janakinath Kaul
was
Kamal.
Kamal, who was my form teacher, and he had made me the editor of English. He used to teach us English, by the way. And
Oh,
I always thought that he was the English guy. He knew English, and I never knew. It was only much later that I knew that he was a Sanskrit scholar.
he was a great
I mean,
scholar.
that was his,
I bought one program on him also, conversation on him. I did one very recently. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So he's you probably did it with his son or grandson or somebody.
No, with his son I did with his son is Kapil Kaul.
Kapil Kaul,
Kapil
yeah.
Kaul. That I have
He's
done
a
much
novice.
much before. That was not about that, but his
Yeah,
daughter
yeah,
Utpal Kaul. What's her name? It's very
yeah.
Sanskrit name.
With, yeah,
It is.
Um,
It's a Sanskrit word, yeah. But she
yeah,
was
yeah,
here. She was
yeah.
talked about her.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
I know exactly about her, and I've been also listening to her now that I'm interested in Kashmir Shaivism. So yeah, he was one of the best teachers that I had, you know, and and Kapil was my actually classmate. Kapil was my classmate. He
oh,
was an artist. He was an artist
he's in
in those
Austria,
days.
no?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. He's in Austria. I visited him in Austria. So yeah, great friendship with him. I also visited Janki Nath ji's home in Srinagar, and also visited him in Chandigarh later when the exodus happened. So yeah, those relationships never die. As I said, um,
Hmm.
uh, school days, we have now a DAV school group on WhatsApp where we kind of exchange views, and the
It's
last
all
year
now virtual.
virtual last year when I went to India, I had gone to Kashmir for a Shaivism retreat, Kashmir Shaivism retreat for more than a week. And at that time, I met those people from DAV school in Delhi
Hmm.
before I went there. So yeah, um, we still cherish those memories. And Amar Singh College, I was there only for 1 year
Okay.
because I did my pre-university, and then I went to Delhi. Uh, so at that time, I was kind of I got an admission in IIT Delhi at that time, but I did not
Hmm.
get into the field I wanted to go into, like physics or technology. I went. They gave me textile technology based on my merit in Kashmir, and
Okay.
so I did not end up going to IIT Delhi at that time. But after Emerson College, I went to Delhi University and studied physics honors. Uh, and and then after that, I went to IIT Delhi because they started the semiconductor technology for the first time in around that
Hmm.
time when I finished from Delhi University, and so I was one of the first people to be taught that course. And then of course after that I was in semiconductor industry. We started the semiconductor industry. I was the first engineer to join semiconductor complex in Chandigarh uh,
And you are a
when
pioneer in that specialty of semiconductor.
oh, I consider myself as, because I mean, because I was the first engineer to join that company when it
Okay.
only had that boundary wall and 51 acres of land, nothing else, and a small building where they now have the security guards. So that's all there was at that time. So
Let's come to your dad first. Your father,
yes,
great father. I mean, he's visibly. I really. I mean, I don't know. You've sent some recent photographs. We'll have a photo tour in later. But he looks at such a senior age. He looks so full of life and so full of glow, and I
yes,
mean, like in a very elevated personality. Let's talk about your father, right at the place, I mean, at your family, at your home, and his interaction with the external world and the generation of the students, and all these things about his personality traits, his character, his no his dincharya,
yeah. No,
the beginning
he
of the
was. I
day.
mean,
Yeah.
starting from the beginning, maybe back in those days, he was the only brother who stayed in Kashmir. Everybody else left. So
Oh,
he was the bearer of the flag, and he maintained all the traditions with all the relatives and all the relationships. He maintained them in Kashmir, and then all the brothers and sisters. Of course, they had him as the pivot and the anchor.
link.
So I used to regularly visit every summer, and it was a very festive kind of time at our house every summer because they all used to be there. And
Hmm.
he and my mom were always there with open arms for everybody. And so that was the character at that time. I would give more credit to my mom for that because her wisdom. She was very intelligent person, and she always
Social.
kept and she kept my dad always on track because my dad was an intellectual person who was
Needed a
um,
support.
he was just a study he was studying and teaching, and that was what his thing was. He was very disciplined, and he still remained disciplined till the last day. And
Waking up early in the morning, like every
early,
professor prepares for the class. Yeah.
correct, exactly. He was exactly on time, and he was giving his water to tarpan to his ancestors at exactly the
Tarpan.
same time every day. And rain or shine, he would just go out and do that, and exactly at the same time. And you could match your watch with whatever he was doing,
Okay.
because he was so disciplined. And then he also was he had a sense of duty, always sense of duty, and nothing else mattered for him.
Was more important than
Nothing.
that.
Yeah. And so in Kashmir also, they said, being an intellectual, he was very much for the emancipation of women,
Oh,
particularly because he taught botany and zoology in women's college also, in both Amira Kadal and Nawa Kadal
Navakadu.
colleges. So he was always for the emancipation of women. And he always wanted them to work and not just waste their seat, because he used to always kind of blame them. You take your this difficult to get seat for doing MA and MSc and all, and then you just go
Yeah.
get married and become a housewife, and that's not what he wanted them to do. So
He was there was he there in Mahmooda ji's time also when Mahmooda ji
yes,
was the
yes,
principal?
yes, 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 he
Because
was
I
there.
had one program conversation on Mahmooda ji also. She was
Yeah,
also very, emancipating and a very tall personality who always wanted women to be liberated and live with
yeah,
dignity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it
So that's what.
coincided with her thought. Yeah, that's why I
Right.
asked.
Yeah, yeah. And what inspired me on his last day when he was in the hospital was that at 11 o'clock he used to go out and do the tarpan, and then he's looking at
Oh,
the clock, and he was not able to speak because his lung had collapsed. He was not able to
oh,
speak, but then with his eyes, he's kind of saying, "Hey, I cannot do anything now. I'm
oh.
helpless. I can't do it anymore." So and he's just kind of he was just having an apologetic kind of an expression on his face that he's not able to do it anymore. And so I decided to do that from that day onwards.
Yeah, that's true. That's how the chain goes on and on. That cyclic process finally moves on from one cycle to another. Has he been a stern father in the in childhood or the later, or your mother was more stern than him?
No,
Yeah.
he was stern to everybody except me. in fact, they, in fact, they used to get all the boys from the neighborhood, whoever was not disciplined and whoever was kind of having too much fun. They used to bring him, and he was the expert Naishalak person. He used to kind of go and
Soishalak, Soishalak, Soishalak,
Naishalak. Nai
Naishalak.
means
What is that?
Nai
Acha,
is
acha, with the
Ajir with the hookah. The
hookah with
hookah, the rod through which you kind of
that
hit.
rod, the long rod, which is
Right,
used for
right.
hookah.
Yeah. So Naishalak.
Acha,
So
Naishalak, Soishalak. I heard. Yeah,
he used to be a terror to anybody who was not on track.
that's so wonderful. That's a
Yeah.
great teacher. That's how the great teachers are.
Yeah.
And any anecdote, I mean, which could throw a light on his personality within family or outside, with
My,
any
my,
relative,
my
with students? Yeah.
yeah, I think my anecdote. I told you about the DNA people who came to teach the DNA and all. That was one thing. The other thing is that I took him to Kashmir in 2011, 2012 or 13, I
Hmm.
think, uh, just to kind of show him,
Hmm.
what Kashmir is like. And um, he uh, he went to. I took him to Dal Lake. We were staying in a houseboat. I took him to Dal Lake, and I asked him, when did you last do this, shikara? And he said, in 60s. I said, that long
60.
back? 60s. I
Yeah.
said, that long back? Said, yeah, people used to come and they used to always visit us and all. They used to all go for these things, but I never used to go. They used to go to Pahalgam and Gulmarg and all, and they used to go to do this boating and stuff, but I never used to do it. I said, then how did you do it in 60s? He said, because I was a prodigy teacher, I used to take my students to
For an
to do
excursion.
this, like find these species, new
Okay.
plant species, and
Botanical tour
botanical
kind. Yeah.
tour and stuff. And so I used to do that, and that's how I came here. I never used to come here otherwise. I never came as a
Uh-huh.
tourist. So this was for the first time in 2012 that he was actually there for as a tourist, you know, ever. So that I thought was very interesting. And the other thing that he said at that time,
Mm.
when I took him around, was that this is so different. This is not Kashmir, because
It's changed.
there are no paddy fields and no nothing.
And
It's
Dal has
all,
shrunk a lot. Dal
it
is
is
Dal is squeezed a lot. It has
dull
become
squeeze,
small.
but also wherever there were paddy fields, there are houses now. It's houses everywhere. And then I took him to Pahalgam, and then I took a detour, and I took him to Chandragom, and I told him that I'll
Chandrapur.
show you a village where 8 Kashmiri Pandits families still live right now. And I took him to
Okay.
that village, and I introduced him to those villagers, and he saw them carrying matkas on their head and going to the stream and bringing water and washing clothes and all that stuff, Kashmiri
He must
Pandit
have been a
women.
stall.
So then he said, "Oh, this is the Kashmir that I had left." So,
Ah.
so that that
Oh.
was that is something that even we kind of miss. And but then, believe it or not, that Kashmir is still there in some of those remote places that have not yet been touched.
He was a centurion, and what was the reason? Because of the discipline and the food
Because of the
qualities. Yes, of
discipline.
course, there are blessings from above, no doubt about
Yeah.
that. But yet
No,
again,
I think
at the human
I
level.
think it was his own discipline. He was always very particular to go for the walk at the right time, you know.
Mhm.
And when we gave him the cane that, hey, you should stabilize yourself, he first, like, he was just kind of flinging it in the air. He said, "I don't need this,"
Oh,
and but then we insisted, and then he started using it. But he still would go out and walk till the last days. And yeah, that was and then the sense of discipline in terms of time, at the right time he would get up and
time management.
do the walk internally in the room, in the house itself, and then at a particular time go out for a walk, and to breathe the fresh air outside. And uh, he used to even jog, and he used to, like, sheepishly
Really?
go out and jog. And then he broke his hip. He fell
Oh,
down and he broke his hip. And then the doctor told him that, oh, he fell down while jogging, and I want him to jog again. So he
no,
did his full hip replacement, and lo and behold, at the age of what, 95 or something, he was back
95.
again. He was back at
Right.
that time. He was back again, and he started walking, and uh, not
Oh,
jogging anymore, but walking. He was walking on the roads again.
that's very extraordinary of him.
Yeah.
And normally personalities are defined by some trait or something. All the great teachers in Kashmir and outside as well, and they are all known by some kind of style and trait and dressing sense and immaculate. Some people, some teachers, they are very very they are fond of this immaculate dressing, watch, and I mean cleanliness. And some are different style. They are very harsh in speech. Every teacher had a distinctive style in those
Mhm.
times, especially I'm
Mhm.
talking about 60s, 50s, 70s. Yeah. Could you
Yeah.
define your father in some way?
So he was not like that. He was not immaculate. He was not well dressed. He was always, neatly dressed, properly dressed, but
Neatly dressed.
not like suited, booted, and all that. He was not
Oh
like
no,
that.
don't okay.
Not so
Okay.
much,
He had
except
no
when he had
fancies
to.
for being Western
Nothing.
and something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a villager. See, he was a villager basically, and but he was very particular about education. Very particular about education. Everybody's education. You told me that you have also interviewed Hira Lalji, and he was my dad
Further
was.
person.
Yeah, my dad was his mamaji.
Oh,
He
I
was his
see.
mamaji. Yeah, so you know he put him on track, because he was about to give up on studies at one stage when he was like
Oh,
when he was very young, he was because he had lost his mom very early in his life. That is my Bua. She died very young, like early
Oh,
30s. So he was very small, and then he was not getting as much care maybe as should have been. So his dad was remarried somewhere in UP and stuff. So he was basically a little neglected. And when he came back to Kashmir, and then he was about to give up on his studies, and then he put him
oh,
back. And as you know, he reached the highest levels, and became one of the most eminent Kashmiris.
very
So
and very nice also.
and
Wonderful
yeah,
human being.
so he always gives credit to his Mamaji for all that. And
Professor Saab, I mean, certainly, I mean, such kind of personalities, they are not limited, subjected to their own children only. They have the equanimity. I mean, they treat everyone around, whether they are the students, whether they are the neighbors of any caste, creed, culture.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's how the teachers used to be in that era, probably.
yeah. One more anecdote actually about that is that in fact, Hira Lalji himself told me about it, that he met this guy, Dr. Wali, and Dr. Wali told him that he was an environmentalist in US, and
Oh,
he told him that there used to be a professor, Triloki Nath Dhar, in SP College in the 60s, who when I joined as a lecturer or a demonstrator in SP College, he told me that you're too bright to stay here. He said, don't stay here, you have to go out and get out somehow. So he pushed him out, and he managed to go to Sweden or someplace, Norway or Sweden, someplace like that. And then finally he became one of the greatest environmentalists in the world. He wrote books and
oh,
stuff. And in fact, I consulted him last two years ago, when I myself went into climate action and energy and all that.
yeah, you
So
have worked with that.
yeah,
We'll
so
come to
I
that also.
yeah, it became it closed the loop. So I ended up talking to one of his students who shaped his life.
Your dad lived with you in the later years in a place like California. I mean, that was I mean, in a foreign land, and
Yeah.
because you were there around, the family was around. So, how do you? I mean, differentiate the last life. I mean, last 10, 20, 30 years of life which he spent
Yeah.
there with you,
Oh,
and how do you differentiate with the earlier one? Yeah.
he loved the company of, because we have 250 families.
No.
At that time, there were like 250 families in this area. So lots of Kashmiri Pandits, and because I was also in KOA, I had connections with most of them.
Kashmiri overseas.
Right. So we so he always loved to be here in the Bay Area because of all those connections. And
Uh-huh.
again, because he was in good health, and he was able to go to events and stuff. He was known and liked by everyone, and he liked people, he liked their company. There was a
Oh,
brief period when my mom was sick,
oh,
where he would not even go out of the house, because he used to be completely taking care of her. And
devotion.
that was his character, because he took full care of her, uh, uh, till she passed away during COVID time. But
Oh,
he full care of her. And once she was no longer there, and then again he became a bachelor. He became free, and he was going out, and he always wanted to be on the road, drive around,
oh.
and he used to love that.
Used to drive also in the later age.
No, he was not driving, but we used to drive him around. And
Okay.
that was always something he was looking forward to. After having his tea at 5, we would go out for a drive with him.
He was into reading books, going to the library and picking up
he was
some
he was
special
reading
interest. Yeah.
he was reading at home. I used to get a lot of magazines, which I still do. So he used to read Economist, he used to read National Geographic, Scientific
Uh,
American, I used to get them every month, and Kosher Samachar, he used to read that. So yes, he used to read a lot. Uh, it reduced a little towards the end after my mom passed away, but
Okay.
then he still continued to read. At least when the magazine would come, he would take at least 1 or 2 days to browse through it, if not read them fully. And he
And
used to
he had
find it
an
very fascinating. He used to find it very fascinating to read these articles on
magazines,
space and science and
space,
all of these
science.
latest topics in Scientific American and National Geographic and Economist. He used to really get fascinated by all that.
That's so wonderful. I mean, was he? I mean, as a family elder, I mean, who was in a different age, was he? I mean, approachable and smooth, in harmony with the second generation and the kids and
He
all.
was, except that he was disciplined and he wanted things to be done his way. So
That's so
everybody
wonderful.
had to conform to his calendar, and
Okay.
nobody could disturb him during that whatever chore he was doing.
Hmm.
He didn't want to be distracted from that. So there was just Nas Kazan. His nose used to go up
That was
whenever
a
anybody
sign he's
whenever
annoyed and
anybody
he's not happy.
distracted him. Yeah.
And you have a brother also. No, you're a single. You have one.
My brother passed away unfortunately when he was only 58 years old,
Oh, I
and
see.
he had moved to the US in '69,
Okay.
much before. And but I did not move to US. I was in semiconductors. I could have easily come to US. In fact, I got into US into a uh, into a university to pursue further studies. But I decided to stay in India because my parents were there, and my
Because
brother was
yes, this also because you had done a very great job in the semiconductors in India, and I think you had also worked with APJ Abdul Kalam Azad and sorry,
Abdul Kalam,
APJ
yeah,
Abdul
not
Kalam,
Azad.
APJ Abdul
Yeah,
Kalam,
not
not
Azad.
Azad, mixing up two things. And you have been doing very well in India, and then finally you went to US. Was it the reason that the parents were there, the family was there, you wanted to share?
Yeah, actually, the thing was interesting because I was one of those people who said, "I'm never going to leave India. I'm going to just continue to be here." Uh,
Be here.
Not only because my parents were there, but also I wanted to contribute, and I was in semiconductors, and it was a nascent field.
There's an old saying
So
that one who makes a resolution breaks it first. Yeah.
breakfast first, yes. So I stayed there, and as I said, I was the first. I spent some time. I did my master's in semiconductors only because I had heard that Indian government is investing in a factory in India. So because
Oh,
I did not know when that was going to happen. I was a young boy and thought, oh, this is going to happen. So let me go and study this because this is IIT Delhi is introducing this course. So I did that, and we had very good professors, and we set up a lab there. We started the first chip manufacturing kind of at a pilot scale, at a kind of lab scale in the IIT Delhi. And then I started, once I was done, I said in fact, those days, Subhash Kak was also there in IIT Delhi. He was teaching,
oh,
and
oh,
he was my teacher there. He taught me
that is a great person.
passive network synthesis class. So he was a very young boy himself those days. He was not even
Okay.
married, but he was a great teacher, very accomplished guy, an extremely popular guy over there in IIT Delhi. So, but that's when I was doing this, and when I finished, I found that there was no factory anymore. I didn't have a job. There was no factory, so ended up going to Bharat Electronics, where they had
Okay.
some chip manufacturing going on, very small scale. It was not very well known, but I went there and I spent a couple of years there, and I was just keeping a watch on that factory that was going to come up. And it finally came. The first advertisement came in '80, and I joined. I applied for it and I got the job because I had the degree and stuff, and I had the experience. So, but then when I went to Chandigarh, to in the outskirts of Chandigarh, Mohali, which is now not
Mohali.
outside anymore. And they had this factory, in which is like all these paddy fields, nothing else. And there was a boundary wall there, and there's trees around, but nothing else inside. So we we did the first groundbreaking, and got trained in US. Had a technology transfer agreement with a company here in the Silicon Valley, and it was during the peak terrorism period that we built that factory over there. And we started making chips for clock chips and phone chips and so on. So we started making chips in year 82 or so.
Okay.
In
So,
80, yeah. So it was
so I mean,
so that was a
you were
silicon semiconductor.
trailblazers kind of people. You're the pioneers kind of people in this semiconductor industry. But you are. I want to know. I'm more interested. I know your story. It's a very amazing one. But I want to know this APJ Abdul Kalam and you. This. I mean, his encounter with you.
Yeah. So what happened was that we had as I said, Punjab was going through a lot of terrorism, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of sabotage going on and stuff. And people say that it was because of sabotage that the semiconductor factory that we had built over there after was a very sophisticated factory, and it got burnt. And then they had to rebuild it later, but I was not there at that time when they rebuilt it. But at that time, they asked me to go and help DRDO set up a gallium arsenide chip factory. Gallium arsenide is also a semiconductor. It's not silicon. People mostly think that silicon is the only semiconductor, and everybody makes chips on silicon.
Common people think like that. Yeah.
Right. But gallium arsenide is another semiconductor, and there are many other semiconductors which are not very easy to manage. But gallium arsenide has got a lot of advantages, particularly for space and defense applications.
Okay.
So APJ Abdul Kalam had this dream that he wanted to set up this thing called GATEC. GATEC is GAEE, gallium arsenide, GAETEC. That is gallium arsenide enabling technology center. He wanted to have these technology centers, and one of them was gallium arsenide. So they asked me to go and set it up. So I went to Hyderabad, and basically I worked with solid state physics lab in Delhi, and there was a process that they had kind of developed. So I productionized that process, and I wrote the specs for production version of that process. And those days the computer usage was not that much. I hand wrote most of the process specs and the equipment specs, and then we also went on to design the factory, and rooms, the clean air and all that stuff, because they're very sophisticated factories. And
you're talking about 1970s around?
This was in 90 now. 80s we did the 80s. In 80s we did the silicon factory in Chandigarh, and then 90 when this exodus happened, Kashmiri Pandit exodus happened, that same time they asked me to go and lead this gallium arsenide thing for Dr. Abdul Kalam. So I met Dr. Kalam in Hyderabad at the research complex Imarat. And actually I was so fortunate that he was giving a tour to a professor from IIT, and then he asked me to tag along. So I also tagged along with him, and he gave a tour of that was something that is never going to erase from my mind, because he was not only so good in telling us what he was showing, he knew every person in that lab who was developing anything, and he knew them. He knew exactly what they were doing. He knew exactly what challenges they were facing, and he was there always to kind of get the right help. And that tour, which was supposed to be for half an hour, it took almost 2 hours, because he just spent so much time with everybody in the labs, lab assistants and everyone, trying to understand their problems and solving them. And he was such a wearing almost like a slippers,
very simple.
very simple guy, and
Such a great.
and a genius, and he was
Genius.
a kind-hearted person, very kind-hearted person. The way he was
That
connected
comes
to
from the south,
yeah,
his background also,
yeah.
family and the
And
southern.
he built a temple in that research complex Imarat because he found while they were constructing, they found that there was a murti there, and he said,
Okay.
oh, there must have been some temple here at some time,
Oh,
and then they said, restore it. So they restored that temple there in the hillocks, in the mountains, yeah,
he
big
locked.
rocks. And then he in the middle of those big rocks, and then he used to open. It was a high security area. He used to open it every particular day for anybody to come and visit that temple, even though it was inside the premises. So yeah, very very great person.
I mean, it is all the things happened simultaneously. You're going to U.S. Silicon Valley and joining the Intel there and the corporation, and before that, something happened in Valley, and it was a very horrendous exodus happened, and
I
everybody was
mean, yeah, I was
uprooted.
in Chandigarh. I was in semiconductor
No.
complex at the time. I was kind of working there. We were setting up the factory. Actually, no, we were not setting up anymore. We were actually running the factory. I was now the fab manager, the fabrication manager for the factory where the chips were being made, and it was going all well, except that there was terrorism going on. And at that time, when the exodus happened, uh, lots of people came to Chandigarh from Srinagar and from villages in Kashmir, and so the community there came together, and they gave me charge of one of the facilities. There was a community center in Sector 29, which was given to
Oh,
these refugees, and so we hosted them. We basically arranged for their food and sleeping and all that arrangements. So
assisted them and helped them.
we
Yeah.
tried to do whatever we could do. It was very hard. We got second community center, then we got a third community center as more people started coming in. So it was a very tumultuous time,
Yeah, it
and
was very horrendous, very sad, very tragic time, very tragic.
and
We are
country was
totally
going
uprooted.
through. Yeah, I mean, it was Kashmir was the worst that affected us, but India was going through a lot of rough time those days. That Harshad Mehta thing happened at that time
Yeah,
when
scam. Yeah, that
that
happened.
big scam happened at that time, and every public
Even
sector company.
I had purchased his shares, and it went 20 times benefit I got. And there were some people who became rich overnight, and then
Yeah,
it fell
yeah, right. And
drastically.
like many of the public sector companies also got involved in that scam, and that included my company, Semiconductor Complex. And
Oh,
so there was a lot of scams going on at that time, and even this gallium arsenide factory that were supposed to build. I had
hmm.
designed everything, and everything happened, and we were kind of ready to start making it, and then the contracts were starting. Because I was the project director, I had to sign everything, and I said, no, this I cannot approve this kind of thing, because you're giving these contracts to people, selected people who have no business, who have no experience in this. So
Experience or
yeah,
expertise.
yeah. So basically, what was going on there at that time was this corruption, and because I was at the helm of the affairs, I resisted that. And then that's the time when when Kashmir was in boil, and my parents had to move away from there, and they decided to go to US, and corruption was happening. I was in the middle of that, and I decided to that this was not worth it. It was not worth it.
What
So
what
I
affect what affect the what, because you were outside Valley, but what bearing it had on the on the conscience of your parents, especially your father, this 1990 mass exodus,
I
this
mean, they
almost
had come as usual. They used to come every year to Chandigarh to stay with us in winter because it was too cold, and they came as usual, and then they could not go back
oh
because December, 1990, then 1989, everything happened. So they were not able to go back. They did not even have the clothes for summer.
oh
So it was extremely hot, and
very pathetic.
they they said, okay, we can't stay here, and my brother insisted that they should come to US. And so it was a big trauma, really, for the family, for everybody, because we had lost everything in the at home. I don't have any pictures. Yes, the other day you were asking me to give you pictures. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have any pictures from my childhood at all, because we left everything there. All those books I was telling you about DNA and all the things that I used to do in my childhood.
Lost.
I was never too much into sports. I was always into studies, and I got so many books and so many hobbies and stuff, and everything was left there. So yeah, it was a big trauma for us, for everybody, but it was probably not as bad for
Well,
us
well,
because we were safe outside.
very sad. It was bad for everyone. It was the entire thing was, it was,
Right.
inferno. Everything
So
was in inferno. Everything, the civilization, the esteem, the article, the physical existence, the moral existence, the
yeah,
spiritual existence. Everything was a
yeah.
shambles. I mean,
So
it is
so yeah,
this great community which could again rise, and because of help of people like you and also their own efforts, that
yeah.
finally we could at least crawl back and stand up.
So yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I would like to kind of just say that at that time, before so I decided that I'll also go to US, because I had the option to go to US anytime I wanted, because my brother
hmm,
was here and he had already sponsored me many years ago. I was already eligible to go for a green card, but I was not going because I was doing well and I was kind of driving the semiconductor industry in India. And so, but then because of this corruption thing happening and the Kashmir problem happening, and at that time, as all those legislations were being brought in, this places of worship act and all kinds of things were happening. It was like everything was, and we were having a $1 billion of foreign exchange reserve in India at
oh,
that time. $1 billion. And they put uh, gold as a collateral for getting a
yeah,
loan.
Chandrasekhar did it. Yeah,
So this is all
Chandrasekhar's time.
happening in that time. This is 1991, 92. That was the time when this was happening. So that's
It
why
only
I
was.
got
It was before pre Manmohan Singh era. Pre Manmohan
right.
Singh era.
So then I wrote a letter to Abdul Kalam, handwritten, and I told him that this is what is going on in your project, and
Hmm.
I have tried to resist it. I have tried to kind of do this, but they actually asked me to stay in Chandigarh and not go to Hyderabad anymore. I mean, there's a long story about this, what happened, but
Anyway,
I wrote
cut the
all of
story
that.
short. Yeah.
I wrote all of that in my letter to Abdul
Okay.
Kalam, and uh, the atmosphere was so dangerous those days that I
Loss.
decided to I decided to mail that letter when I was about to board the plane to go to US
Okay.
and on immigration. I mailed it and then I went in the plane and left, because I knew that if somebody knows about what I'm doing, they would break my legs and my family would be, you know. So, and then of course, within a few days after I reached US and took up my first job, I got a call from my cousins that, oh, you are there in the newspapers everywhere, because that letter to Abdul Kalam was leaked to the press, and they were saying that, hey, the brain drain is happening, people are leaving the country because of all this corruption and stuff like that. So it was in the press. But anyway, I moved to US, and within a few
Yeah,
months I
press was the fourth estate was still honest in those days. I mean, they were very genuine. I mean, journalists, great veterans also. Some of them. Yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean, it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Please, sir. Please.
No, I was just saying that it was there in like Tribune and Hindustan Times and Indian Express, and so my family started telling me, hey, what happened? Your name is there in the press everywhere.
ता क्या करूँ?
Yeah,
You will go very quickly to your Intel Corporation story, although it's a complete life you devoted to that, and as you have sent your in your this profile, life profile. But I want to have a quick tour to your initial days in the US, and especially in your Intel Corporation,
yeah.
and a brief kind of some.
Yeah, no, briefly, I will tell you that I joined Intel in 94. I moved to US 93 end. I worked for a few months in a company, small company, and then joined Intel. And because of my background in semiconductors in India, they found my resume attractive. And so the main thing I did when I came to Intel was to bring quality systems uh, to Intel. and with the people's involvement. So even though I had come from a different country, I was able to build a network of people, particularly
Participation.
at the workforce, at the workers level, to make them part of solve solutions. Instead of being the problem, workers became the solutions. And
Okay, that is
so I created that environment, and I created the data. I generated the data to really help them solve the problems. We used to make Pentium chips those days in the factory in Silicon Valley, and each of those chips was selling for $1,000, each one of them, because this was the first time the Pentium processors were in the market. So they were extremely
okay.
rare, and so they were extremely expensive. So I helped increase the yield from like 74% to 95% in 1 year. I gave a slogan to the workers,
Mm.
95 and 95. I joined in 94. I said 95 and 95. So, so 95 within 1 year, I showed them all the data to help them solve the problems specifically on the floor, and hold their engineers accountable for their problems, because I told them that these are your problems, not the engineers' problem. Engineers are supposed to help you solve them. So the whole culture changed there, and
Absolutely.
they basically asked me to kind of replicate that in all their factories, because they had factories in Israel and in
Oh,
Ireland, and or in other places. So they asked me to kind of replicate that thing. But that was the first year or two, and then I was uh, doing many different roles. After that, I changed to other roles, and then I spent the last few years, last maybe almost a decade, maybe more, working on the innovation ecosystem.
okay.
Working nowadays, that the best or the most advanced company in chip making semiconductors is TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors, and that's why Taiwan is such a uh, important place for America. Otherwise, Taiwan would not be such an important place for America, because they have the semiconductor industry. They are the best in semiconductors, and I used to be the Intel representative in TSMC.
Oh,
So I saw how TSMC did what they did. So I think that was one of the biggest learning that I had on how to innovate. They
how
went
to
they were
innovate.
they were 3 generations behind Intel when I started working with them, and by the time I left Intel, they were 3 generations ahead of Intel. In those
Oh,
10 years, they went so far,
so
and
drastic
that was
change.
because what they actually officially call it innovation, OIP, open
Oh,
innovation platform. So I was in the deep trenches, working in the trenches on with them about how they did that. So I thought in 2020 I decided
Hmm.
to retire. As I have told you, I had decided to retire. This was the 20th April 2020, which was peak of COVID.
Hmm.
The whole world was transforming. Whole world was kind of shocked to see how the society has changed, and the climate crisis was out there. And this was the 20th. This was the 50th Earth Day, and I had this National Geographic issue on the 50th Earth Day, and it painted a picture of how things are going down. Everything is kind of collapsing, and the planet is not going to be livable on hundred
Yes,
on
that's a concern for people like me also, who doesn't have any expertise and any understanding of all these things. But there are visible signs everywhere.
correct.
We can find it
So
around. Yeah.
right. So I thought that I've been in semiconductor industry for 43 years now. Time to retire. I decided to retire and
Give
join
something
climate
back to this.
this and clean energy transition. And yeah, so that's how I kind of ended up transitioning from there. And for that period, since 2020 to 2024, I have actually been working with the US government on one end, Department of Energy, Defense, Commerce. They are all
Private sector.
interest, and the private sector on the other end. So we formed a bridge between the two
That's true.
to to really get all of the industry, like all the industry who are competing with each other, but they're all working on one platform to help the government, all of government, to implement a national blueprint for batteries, because China has kind of completely dominated this space. And so as a US citizen now, I'm kind of trying to get US back and trying to use that leapfrogging innovation ecosystem.
And suddenly, I think you'll be the Trump is coming back, and certainly conservatives are there. I hope that will be of a great support.
It's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be hard, but at the same time, Elon Musk is on his team, and Elon Musk is all about clean energy. It's all about clean energy, right? He's about electric cars.
Everybody wants a sustained planet. They want this planet to sustain, the civilization to sustain human civilization.
And I think Trump has also changed.
Yeah.
Trump has also changed.
I as an artist, I think that he has created an image of himself. I was having some. I heard a discussion somewhere. It reconciled with my thought of Trump. Probably he has created a myth image. He has created that to scare, to keep people away. Otherwise, he's a smart transactional businessman. He knows what to do. Probably.
Let's see how it goes. But that's an uncertainty. But I have a contract working for that the bridge between the government, US government, and
how far you have been, as you have written that the Earth Day 2070. How near are you towards that particular milestone benchmark?
I don't think we are making enough progress. We're not making enough progress. We need to do a lot more. And but Shiva is destroyer, sustainer, and the preserver, and the creator. So this destruction also may be part of the grand scheme. So in the last few years, I have learned that the solution to the problems that we are facing, whether it's the Earth Day or it's the climate and all that stuff,
comes from this
only technology. It's not only technology. It's more than technology. It's how we use technology and science, and how for the last 300 years, science and technology has been used for extracting and exploiting.
Yes, very
true. Right? So that has become the culture. That has become the dominant culture. The imperialism, the colonialism, that has become the culture that is basically driving everything that we do today. And that includes
taking our vital sublime energies, vital sublime that traditional thought process, and that soulfulness away from the humanity.
Not only from the humanity, even soil. The soil is now polluted. See, the soil is no longer fertile anymore. It's all polluted. So we have taken it away from the entire life ecosystem. The whole planet is dying, and
billions of years before it, and within a century, we have destroyed everything.
Right, and that's because we lost the native culture. See, even in the US, there was a native wisdom. There was a native wisdom, and they had lived with nature for thousands of years. They had developed a balance, and the same thing in India and Asia and everywhere. They had lived for so many thousands of years with nature, and they had developed this wisdom where Vasudeva was important. It's not only the countries. It's not all the countries. It's also the nature. It's the nature, right? It's a planet. So that wisdom, 5,000 years of wisdom, was lost. Not only lost, it was annihilated. It was annihilated.
Ruthlessly.
And I got interested in this after having a chat twice with Federico Faggin, who invented microprocessors at Intel. He invented microprocessors at Intel in the 70s, and then he created his own factory or his own company called Zilog, and then another company, and then he formed another company called Symantec. He wanted to put consciousness into computers. He wanted to put consciousness into computers. He didn't know better. He thought, if humans can do this, we have a brain. There's something going on in the brain, and I can do the same thing in the silicon. So in the 90s, he decided to do that, and he formed this company. And he wanted to learn about consciousness, and he couldn't find anything in the Western literature. He had to turn to East. And then, he used to come to this conference called Science and Non-Duality Conference. And we used to have it in,
Science and non-duality.
it used to happen here in Silicon Valley every year. We used to have 500 odd people who joining this conference. And we used to be a few Indians also there, but mostly they were like people from all over the world, mostly scientists and technologists and medical scientists. And they used to all come together, and really, this used to be all about consciousness studies. And I met him there, and we had a chat, and he explained to me about what he was trying to do with consciousness. And then I told him about Kashmir Shaivism, and I didn't know much about Kashmir Shaivism. I said, hey, Kashmir had this thing, tradition about, and it was all about consciousness, that stuff. And he said, and then I told him about what has happened to Kashmiri Pandits and how they are all at the verge of extinction. So he said, that's going to be a pity. He said, then you should rally your community together around this wisdom that you guys have. I've been looking for this wisdom. I couldn't find it anywhere. So you should rally your community around that and rejuvenate that community. And so this was about 5 years ago, and I started studying this. Then I started joining Swami Lakshman Ju's thing, and then that's when I learned, Janki Nath Kamal was actually doing this. He was not an English. He was not an English guy. He was a Sanskrit guy. He was a
Sanskrit guy. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that. I
have heard many things. I mean, there were many people. I tried to contact that Mark Dujaski also and Bettina Sharda. Apart from them, I met some Motilal Pandit was on my show. Very brilliant man. He has researched a lot. And even somebody told me, some non-Kashmiri who used to watch our shows, he's an Indologist in a way, used to say that even he's called MC Square or something like that. All these concepts somewhere down the line, it's written in the books suggested by Swami Lakshmanji. And then the hierarchy, Swami Ramji and Mankak and others. Yeah, please.
Correct. So when I was little, again, bring it back to my childhood. When I was in Kashmir, I was never exposed to this spiritual aspect. I used to go to do this puja and all that, and do all these kind of rituals. And I used to always tell my mom, what the hell are we doing? We are living in dark ages. I was a science guy. I was saying that this is all nothing. We are living in dark ages. And then, at this age, 60s and all, I'm seeing this guy, Federico Fagin, telling me about this. And then I'm kind of seeing, and I'm seeing this climate action. I'm seeing that the root cause of all these problems is lack of that wisdom that we have lost, because it was deliberately killed by the colonial powers. And it was not only done in India, it was done all over the world, in New Zealand.
I think be thankful to the Maharaja Pratap Singh and Maharaja Ranbir Singh that they brought the Western scholars like Bernier, like this Orlstein, like all these great people. I had one show. It's a very important show. You must watch that. Surinder Kumar had given about this. How these people were employed by Maharaja Pratap Singh to go to Kashmir and just brood and just search for these wonderful scriptures and the sciences and ancient wisdoms. That's how it was captured.
Yeah, actually, I have created a series of webinars after I got interested in this, and I found that when I was doing this climate action with all of US government and all of industry, I found that wisdom was missing, and they're all kind of doing it from the colonial, the extractive and exploitative.
Yeah, businessmen, Banya type.
They're all doing this. And unless we bring in that wisdom into this whole thing, we'll never be able to achieve that 2070 vision. Okay, so that's why I thought that Kashmir Shaivism is not about history. It's not about our history. It's more about solving today's societal problems. See, even those days, like 1,000 years ago, when Abhinav Gupta and all did this, they synthesized
Shiv Sutra. He wrote Shiv Sutra.
Correct. When they synthesized all the previous wisdom that had come till
Uh,
that time, they did it from that time's perspective. It was to
yes,
solve that time's problems, you know. So now today we have to use the same concept, and it has to be there to. It's a perennial. It's a sanatan wisdom.
perennial. It's ever
The
flowing.
perennial sanatan wisdom. It has to solve today's problems and tomorrow's problems. It cannot
Sanatan
be.
hai,
Yeah,
eternal.
it cannot be about history. It has to be about today and tomorrow.
It's
And
not linear. Yeah.
I see it so clearly, looking at all these problems of climate problem. They're not related only to energy, clean energy. They're also related to soil. They're related to culture. They're related to that wisdom of
Living
living
entities, no.
in a balanced way, not having greed, but having enough. So that kind of thing, that philosophy is there, and
As
that's what.
As Amitabh Matuji was on my show, he said something very beautiful at the end when I was talking about Haksar Sahab, and I was talking about Aran Kao, the great genius who was known to be one of the, entire even French, the espionage masters used to consider him to be great master, great master of this intelligence master, and they didn't write a single line about themselves. He
Yeah,
said a very beautiful line. He said that is the Hindu Sanatan way of life. At the end, you unburden yourself because you
yes,
have not to take it along.
correct, yeah,
मैंने किया, मैं कोर ऐसा नहीं है.
yeah,
Even Haksar, for that said, such a great literary man, socialism to the Sanskrit literature, the mastery of everything. But at
yeah,
the end, no note about himself. He was given Padam Shri by Indira Gandhi. He said that what for? I'm taking a
yeah.
salary from my work and you are giving me Padam Shri. So that is what Sanatan,
Mm,
probably these
mm.
higher ranking people also maintained. They
Correct,
understood. They did
yeah,
the karma and finally it is nothing. It is just
yeah.
a contribution and move. Yeah.
So briefly, I'll tell
So
you
you are
that.
employing your I because our youngsters maybe tomorrow or whenever they would like to open this archival of yours. I would like to ask one question. What do you think about Kashmir Shaivism as a spiritual edifice? Because in India, it's a we have I think it's a huge reservoir of spiritual sciences,
Mhm,
dualism, non-dualism, all the things around from
mhm, mhm,
Shankaracharyas and then the Shank Parampara and Vaishnav Parampara, and there are many things. All are wisdomful, all are wonderful because we are not taught by, excepting for Gita,
mhm,
which was taught in every household in Kashmir probably. वो भी हम नहीं पढ़ते थे.
mhm.
तो what do you how do you interpret Kashmir Shaivism, Tarkashastra, and especially in
Let me
domain of your work? Yeah.
yeah. So the series that I have actually given this summer, this 2024, webinars. Basically, it has, what are the societal crises that we are facing today? What are they? We talked about, for example, the climate, the biodiversity, where so many species are going extinct, and the land is being converted from forests to these
Barren,
mines and
barren land.
everything, right? And so that's basically ecological ceiling is being breached, and then similarly societal foundation is being breached. There's justice problem, equality between people has kind of gone to the dogs. There is health issues, mental health issues. Political voice
Yeah,
is
it's
not
very
there.
common. Being dominant.
Water problems are there everywhere. So these are all societal problems, and this can be solved with wisdom, and that's why I think the Kashmir Shaivism thing becomes relevant, and it's particularly relevant because, see, unlike other indigenous wisdom, for example, Mayan wisdom Navajo wisdom or Maori wisdom
Navajo,
in New
Maya,
Zealand, they are all decimated completely. There's no trace of them left,
sign of
very
them.
little left. But the real wisdom is gone. It was a miracle that Kashmir Shaivism got survived. As you said, the Maharajas did a lot of work, but I think the most important work that they did is that they brought all the Kashmiri scholars together, not only the Western scholars, but Kashmiri
Kashmiri
scholars.
and Western scholars, collaborative scholars.
Correct.
Kashmiri and
They
Western.
brought them together and they created the Kashmir series of texts and scriptures, KSTS. 70 odd books were recreated and they were rewritten. They were rotting in the attics of Kashmiri Pandits, and he brought
Yeah.
them. He brought them out, and they
Some
redid it.
it is said that some brothers had divided some scriptures in three families. आधे ने
Yeah.
आधे page रख दिए थे. Some had kept the one some pages, and such fools we were. So it was because of
So he
Raja
brought,
Maharaja it happened. Yeah.
right. And then for 30 years, 40 years, they worked on those things. And it's only because those books were restored that Swami Lakshmanji was able to do what he was able to do. He would not
That's
have been able to read those books if they were in that state, right?
no, it's because of Maharaj. Because of
So
Maharaj.
so
The whole Renaissance, the revival after 500 years of a foreign rule, excepting for the Badshah's period.
yeah.
Uh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and before the partition happened, he was wise enough. Hari Singh was wise enough to ship these books to Berkeley, Chicago, Cambridge, Oxford. He shipped these books there, and they were sitting there in the shelves on the libraries. And when the hippies who had gone to India in 60s as part of this Maharishi Mahesh Yogi phenomenon and stuff, they were in their 20s, and then they came back to their countries, and they became more mature, and they started doing some things. Then they found these books, and they connected the dots, and then
There's
it
a
revived.
wonderful anecdote about it. The Maharaja Pratap Singh was so strict disciplinarian, and he used to this traditional worshipping, traditional spiritual methodology, Sanatan. He was so much for it. And Arlstein says that before touching and going into, because there is a library behind Raghunath Mandir, there's a library, whole library where all these great Kashmiri scholars and Western scholars. Maharaja Pratap Singh used to tell him that first of all you have to take a bath, complete bath. Then the mantras are to be ucharan. Then tika, shika, and devotion to the deity. Then you can go to the library.
Yes.
You can see the level of. Now you are talking about culture. So this is spirituality and culture which are connected somehow.
Right. I mean, Utpal Deva, when I was talking about Vaicharnag and Utpal Deva, Acharya Utpal Deva, he taught, for the first time, the concept of bhakti and pratibhignya. You know, Shiva Stotravadi that he wrote, and he did that, and it was that bhakti that Maharaja was talking about. That hey, you have to be clean, you have to bow before this, you have to do
something superior is coming. You are going to something superior.
Yeah, you have to have Shraddha in you before you go in. You know? So that's what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to do here in this series of webinars, I'm trying to first show that the crisis that we have needs indigenous wisdom. And the only indigenous wisdom that is surviving and at the highest level is Kashmir Shaivism. Advaita Vedanta and all is earlier. See, Abhinav Gupta synthesized all of that with Buddhism and put it all together and took it to a higher level. In fact, in his earlier days, the books that he wrote were not at the same level as the books he wrote towards the end of his life. So he himself matured as he grew.
Evolution. It was his own evolution.
And one of the last things that he did was Abhinav Bharati, which was actually about aesthetics. It was about
Abhinav Bharati is basically, because I'm from theatre. Abhinav Bharati is a uska translation of Bharat Muni's dramaturgy. Bharat Muni's Nati Shastra.
It's Nati Shastras. What I'm trying to say is that he found that at the end of he found that connection with the aesthetics.
Aesthetics, yes.
Aesthetic. He found it at the end of his life. And then he wrote Bhairav Stotra towards the end of his life. So those are the gems that came at the end. The reason why I'm saying all of this is because what happened in the 11th century and 10th century was the pinnacle of Indic society. Indic wisdom, the pinnacle of that was there. After that, it all fell apart because of the invasions. So that's why Kashmir Shaivism has a special place. And you asked me to say what is the gist of Kashmir Shaivism in my view.
Now, what do you think about Kashmir Shaivism?
Yeah, my view of Kashmir Shaivism is very simple. All of us are doing what we are doing. Whether you are hearing me, I'm hearing you. You are speaking, I'm speaking. It's all happening because of the consciousness in us.
Consciousness.
That's the only reason why we are able to do this. The moment this goes away, you are a bunch of atoms. nothing else, right? It's never on lalwak, you grat sam bihit. Once the Razu Hans to Nera Amaz, Razu Hans to Amaz Neranchu, Wudanchu, that is the consciousness. After that, it becomes a grat, sitting grat. It doesn't do anything.
It becomes nothing. Yeah, it remains.
Grat. So that's the essence. I think that consciousness is in each of one of us, and in every cell in us. That's the only reason why we're able to do what we are able to do. So Shiva is that consciousness, supreme consciousness.
Supreme
And
consciousness that is dormant, and Shakti
yeah,
is its streaming. Yeah,
yeah, Shakti is the manifestation of that Shiva.
manifestation.
Manifestation of that
Swami
Shiva.
Vivekananda ji has very well said. He has said a very great thing. Actually, even in Sanatan also, there has been a stalemate, and some people with the mediocrity also came in, and they didn't understand this whole wisdom. He said that the purpose of human life, human existence, is the expansion of consciousness, nothing else.
Exactly. So that's
Expansion of
why
consciousness.
that expansion of consciousness, because this consciousness is a field of all possibilities.
All possible.
Everything possible. Nothing is impossible. Shiva is everything, right? So now that we are going through this 50th Earth Day to 100th Earth Day, we have to make these changes to make that possibility, that 100th Earth Day is still livable planet. It's possible because Shiva is field of all possibilities. We have to innovate, and we have the ability to innovate because we have the consciousness in us. If we do not have that consciousness, we cannot innovate, right? So whatever we are able to do, it's because of that consciousness in us. And by the way, that consciousness is in everyone.
And that's in
And
everyone.
and
Even
and
for
the
Zen.
only reason you are different than me is because of the impurities in you and me. The real consciousness, the real pure consciousness, supreme consciousness in you and me is exactly same. And that's the only reality there is. You are not real, I am not real. The only reality there is that supreme consciousness. And
Consciousness.
that is only one thing. It's a non-dual. It's not two, it's not three, it's one. And that pervades the entire existence.
Ever pervading.
Pervading entire existence. And that a manifestation of Shiva is Shakti, right? And the only way we can perceive Shiva is through our bodies and through our existence. That's the only way we can
That is a vehicle.
imagine and we can experience. Otherwise you cannot experience Shiva. It's like David Bohm in physics. The quantum vacuum is the field of all possibilities. Quantum vacuum is the field of all possibilities, and it manifests itself once the quantum equation gets solved, and it manifests itself in a particular solution, and then we have different things in the universe. But the vacuum, void, the Buddhism is void. That is also Shiva. That is without that is Shiva without Shakti. But with Shakti, it becomes radiant, right? So
Dormant.
anyway, I think in my view, just this one thought, that the only reason why I do what I do is the supreme consciousness is me, and the Shakti manifests itself as my speech, my thinking, my intelligence, my compassion, my
It has to be. It has to be the Kashmir Shaivism and its teachings, and it's whatever has been, even nobody has even been able to reach it to its datum, understand it. Basically, I don't know whatever the reasons. There are very few people around, and very limited number of people who have an access to the Kashmiri Shaivism and the prescribed, the entire philosophy and that structure and its practical aspects. There are some few people doing now these workshops, but it has to do something with the practicality as well. Because unless and until you approach it with pragmatism, you apply it into your life, just by mere thinking, it's not going to change.
But the thing that I was trying to say is that these are the concepts, this concept of supreme consciousness. But it also has Vopai. It has the Vopai. These are upayas. There are Shaktopai and Sambavopai and Anopai and Anavopai. These are all the means. These are all the methods to realize that reality, And there is this. Uh, there is a book. What is it? It's right here, actually. um, Horkun. So that's a catch. So Bhairavi. So it has got 112 shlokas, and it has got
Okay.
it has got 112 shlokas, and those 112 shlokas are 112 methods to realize the truth. Different people have different thing clicks with them. So these are all four broad classifications. What I'm trying to say is that in Kashmir Shaivism, they have prescribed the way. This is how you do it. And yoga, yogi, the Ashtanga yoga, and Ashtanga
Ashtanga
yoga is
yoga,
not, that's not just bodily, like
but
postures.
Gadali is a
It's
very
also
limited concept
ahimsa.
ultimately.
It's also
It's a
ahimsa.
union.
What does ahimsa mean? All of that is very well described in this. So when I say that it is applicable for today's science, today's technology, like Federico Fagin says that I want to put in consciousness into computers, technology,
Yeah.
So today's science, like Nobel Prizes for last 2020 and 2022 were given to people who are very close to this consciousness studies. Roger Penrose, he has come up with a biological basis for consciousness. So they got a Nobel Prize. So science,
Even
technology,
Subhash Kak has come up with the
with
existential theory that it's an expansion. It will
E
the
theory,
Brahmand is going ever expanding. Yeah,
E
that's
theory,
what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. So I mean, I have been hearing about him when I attended the Science and Non-Duality conference. I have been hearing about him from all the people who have been presenting there. There was a one kidney science. He was a what is it? Um
Nephrologist.
he nephrologist, but he works in the stem cell research.
Oh,
And he has worked with Subhash Kak. He said, I worked with Subhash Kak doing this. And then I found their papers together. And then there is a similar guy, there's a guy, quantum mechanics guy, who has also worked with Subhash Kak on this and that. So what I'm saying is this: today's science, today's technology, today's ethics. Now, when I say ahimsa, this Ashtanga yoga, ahimsa, devotion, all of those things are part of that yoga cult, this thing. And then we have the Kundalini, this thing, and all that. So all
Kundalani. There are many
those
ways.
techniques are there. Those techniques are there. Uh, can I say that I know about that? No, because I'm just touching the surface in the last 6 months or 6 years, right? I'm touching the surface. And then people, I was not even aware of Swami Lakshmanju when I was growing up in Kashmir. I mean, I was kind of
That's
aware
very
of,
unfortunate.
I was kind of aware, but I was not really into it, right? I did not even know that that Janakinath Ji Koul Kamal was actually a Sanskrit scholar, not an English scholar.
That's that one.
So we are just rediscovering ourselves. Our exodus in 1990 has made us reflect on
And
ourselves.
this quantum mechanics has disapproved also this cause and effect theory. It is a very obsolete thing now. Cause
Yeah, I
and
mean,
effect theory, which we propagate all the time. Now, quantum mechanics, yeah, the latest, because our master Pasasati Rajgopalachari used to ask us read about these aspects. There are many people working in this direction. Anyway,
what I was saying was that it's not only about today's science, today's technology, today's public health. This meditation is helping
yes.
to solve public health problems. This crisis, that stress epidemic that has been there. It's
Public health. I mean, our youngsters. I was telling this corporate culture. Indian corporate culture has been adopted from the Western model in toto, and our people, our youngsters are devastated. They are all in stress, sir. All
right.
in stress.
So
There's
so
not an
so public
iota.
health,
Everybody is sick. Yeah,
then ethics. The ethics. It's not civics. Civics. That
civics.
ethics. That ethics is all Ashtanga yoga. That's ethics. And the last one is aesthetics. Our sense of art,
Aesthetics.
our sense of art, what we like and what we don't like. These days, this culture has changed so much that now you have to wear torn clothes to be able to be aesthetic, right? So that whole thing is relevant for
So
today's society.
I think we'll just move slightly ahead, and I
We'll have
think
to
this
go
is
back
a very
to.
very wonderful subject. I will have a debate something on Kashmir Shaivism, and I'll invite you again. And certainly you are doing a great work, and I think its application and implementation and its access to the common people around. That's what's important. Even if the great people in our times, like we have whatever methodologies they preach, whether we have this transcendental meditation or we have Kriya Yoga or whatever there, at least they are reaching to the common masses. But Kashmir Shaivism is yet very, very far.
I think you're right, perfect, correct, exactly right. And we want to reach the youngsters in the US here, and we're trying to our best to do that.
You are
We
doing
had to
well.
break the yeah. And Upharji has now is the new president. I am sure he's going to help us because he himself is a youngster. So
Ah, he's a nice one. He
yeah,
gave me
and
your number. Upar only gave me your number because I never knew Upar. There is one person, Mr. Mattu, Piyush Mattu.
Hmm.
He gave me number. I told him there is. I want somebody here. I was there in Silicon Valley for some time. So they gave me your number, and then Uparji, I connected, and Uparji gave me your number. He said Vijay Dhar is the right person, should talk, but I didn't have time. I could not spare some. Some moments to have a conversation with you there. But finally, it has happened. Darsab, let's now slightly go into more community affairs. You
Mhm.
are in you have been you have taken up so many wonderful initiatives in KOA and all other KO members as well, and especially the safeguard of the spiritual heritage of Kashmir. And besides that, Kashmiri diaspora, you said about 250 families. It's a huge number. 250 families, Kashmiri families, live there in the Silicon Valley. And
More than
you, as
this.
a
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
what was the what is the connect and what is the harmony? What is the bonhomie? And how is this whole concept of Kashmiri Overseas Association keeping them together, gravitating it towards to keep them vital and alive to their roots?
Yeah, actually, when I came here, we had 86 families here in
Yeah.
93 or 94. We had only 86 families in the list. But
Okay.
then after the exodus, lots of people got displaced, and they found their way into the Bay Area. So I was when I was the director, they asked me, 93 I came, and 95 or 96 they made me the director here. So I had because those days there was little emails and mostly phones. So I actually ended up talking to people.
Okay.
I called them. I talked to them at length, and I used to have the reputation of finding people from the under the rocks. Kanyatal came Karan. That's how I used to find them. And then anytime I used to go somewhere, I used to kind of be on a lookout for a dejor and stuff like that. So we and whenever a youngster came, those days lots of youngsters came, and they just got married, and then we used to invite them and their bride to our home and stuff. And we used to have all these get-togethers, 4 get-togethers at least per year. So that kind of kept the family together. It was a very structured way in every zone, and ours was one of the largest zones. And every zone we had a structure to do all this. So that's, I think, something that has helped us a lot. I think India should also kind of have, maybe they have some areas, some pockets where that kind of thing is there, but we had this advantage here of the structured way. The
Okay.
other thing was that after the exodus happened, KOA geared themselves to take care of the rehabilitation of the community, and that also brought us together to support people in Jammu, and help members and establish relationship with those people who we were helping. It's not only sending money, but setting up relationships with them.
Nurturing
Communicate.
and serving India
Right? Yeah.
relationship.
So I've been, for example, whenever I go to India, I've been always going and visiting people that I have kind of supported during my life. Whatever, whoever. And if not able to meet them, if I'm at least able to you know communicate via WhatsApp or whatever. So and here, because the youngsters came, lots of youngsters came, they were all recently I found, particularly after the Article 370 was abrogated, I found that they have released renewed interest in Kashmir. Till that time, people were kind of thinking about this something that we had to leave behind, and we had to move on in our life. But after this Article 370 happened and the debates in the universities and everywhere are heated up, people have kind of reconvened to um, defend our identity. So youngsters have started getting involved. We have a kosher kitab thing that I'm going to be joining this evening, and where we read
Worship
Kashmiri
Kitab.
with kosher kitab. And then we have this Shavai.org, where we have quantum Shaivism channel, and we have traditions and rituals and traditions channel, and we have so many things. So lots of people who are interested in this, and lots of people are interested in this. They are coming together and they're learning about it. I'm
That's
feeling
something.
much better. I'm really
That's
feeling
something.
much better in the last 2 3 years, 2 years or so, that youngsters are kind of taking interest. They just don't know what to take interest in. What is it that they're
Well, it is
basically.
not. It is not merely a long vacation together, khana khaya, gana mana bajaya. That's all. It's not. I mean, ya ferran pehna. So, but
uh,
it's not something like that. Uske beyond. I
Correct.
mean, youngsters go up because unless and until, sir, we invent our legacy. As you rightly said, when 370 was removed, people started getting the youngsters started getting the interest. When these youngsters will understand, apart from Bobaji, apart from Lalaji, apart from Kakaji in my neighborhood, which have a limited scope, there are real heroes in this legacy of our civilization, in the contemporary as well as the past. When we have real heroes, when we have real legacies, when we have self-esteem, certainly people can certainly come up and they will
but
yeah.
and I think what I have been trying to do is to show the relevance in the today's society, and
That's very
relevance of
important.
our past,
That is the most important.
and basically show it how relevant it is, so that, just like I used to say that, oh, we are living in dark ages because what the hell are we doing? I didn't know what we were doing, right? Now I know a little bit, and I see, oh, wow, this is a meaning, and this is a very profound meaning, you
Profound.
know and when only then people are going to stick to their culture. Otherwise they are saying, this is dark ages, I'm not going to stick to it, you know just like I did.
How are you? How are the Kashmiri diaspora or like Indian diaspora? I mean, not only Kashmiri, dealing with this, acclimatization with a place which is very different, and naturally, I mean, you cannot. The intercaste marriages will happen. They have to happen. That is a natural system. You cannot stop it. As there is I mean, cry by some parochial, not minds. There's nobody's parochial through mind, but there are some section who can't think beyond. They think that going into intercaste marriages is something that will be a debacle. I don't think it is so. You can see the case of Sindhis. They got intercaste marriages, and they ultimately increase their,
I would actually
periphery of.
take it to, I would actually take it to the higher level. I would say that, our wisdom is so rich. Our wisdom is so rich that even if I get, my son gets married to an
Children.
Iranian, they will find a common ground between between these ancient indigenous cultures that will resonate. And as Kashmir Shaivism says, we are all same. We are all
That's
same,
true.
right? It doesn't matter whether you're from Argentina or from Brazil or from Iran or wherever. We're all same. We all have the same supreme consciousness as us. The reason why we are different is the pollution that is brought into our life, into our mind, because of the worldview that we hold, or because of the sanskaras and all that stuff. So at a higher level, our wisdom is sanatan,
It
is
is
universal,
Sanatan. It is
right?
Sanatan. It is subtle at the subtlest level. At the
Correct,
subtlest level.
correct. So this difference is not so important. You know, we are all the same, and if they understand, if the boys and girls understand that the wisdom is common,
There are there are
and
certain Iranian traditions which are being used by Kashmiri Pandits also. Navroz, Thali, there are certain many things. If we go into the research,
now,
I
as
brought
as
in
Subhashi, as Subhashi told you, it was all one region. Lalita Aditya had conquered up
yeah,
to Caspian Sea, And
please.
there's a, I mean, we were all, even Europe was colonized by, even Europe was colonized. See, and same way Iran was
And it
colonized,
was
and same way
it
India
was
was
like
colonized.
the Kashmir was like, this area was not Kashmir, the surrounding as well. It was like a Silicon Valley of those times.
It
I mean,
was
people
Silicon
used to.
Valley.
Yeah.
It was Silicon Valley. It was Silicon Valley. Definitely. In fact, one of my foils in my webinar is that this was the Silicon Valley of the world at that time. And it had, like when I say this Saptarishi calendar and all, it was Saptarishi calendar was not only being used there, it was being used all over the Central Asian region.
Yes, yes, yes. You have the contemporary research now, which is going on. Even the landmarks, you can say these Zoroastrians and the Vedic civilization is almost similar. The worship of sun and the worship of fire, and all these things, they were common. One particular, a very great thing will I, because I'm in a practice, I'm in heartfulness meditation, and there is one particular one. It's a top down process by the great masters. It has been reinvented. It was prevailing in India 72 generations before Raja Dashrath. Pranahuti, transmission. So it eloped somewhere after these people, the raiders came and other things. It eloped from here and it went away to different parts, and it also went to the Iran, where it changed its attire, and it came through that attire, and then came back, went in the form of Sufism and other things. So its origin was here. I remember Mr. Padma Shri Kashinath Panta coming to my show, and Safiul Sabah is some great Iranian, that researcher and a scholar of the Shah's time before Ayatollah Khomeini. He is the man. He was the main guide, a very respected personality who had to leave finally Iran after Shah's debacle and Ayatollah Khomeini. Religious fundamentalism came in. He went to him. He said that I give you a topic on tasawwuf, spirituality. So Kashinath said, no, I can't do that. Usne kaha, you come from India. You come from the land of Bedil. You come from the land of this Purana. You come from the land of, it has all come from there. And you now refuse to do a research in this. So you can understand. You can understand how it was connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you mentioned Federico Fagin, this guy, Federico Fagin, when he found that he could not find anything on consciousness in the West, he turned to East, and the person who was the guru for him, he was a Muslim. His name was A.H. Halamas.
A.H. Halamas.
A.H. Halamas, and he is an Iraqi, if I'm not mistaken, but he's a Vedanta expert. He is the one who taught him what consciousness is all about.
When the couplet I just speak about Ghalib, and Ghalib was largely greatly influenced by Upanishads, and Bedil was impressed by Bedil, and Bedil was because you see Aham Brahmosi, you can find Aham Brahmosi in his couplets. Ghalib was somewhere down the line, like Dara Shikoh and other people, and many Muslim scholars, they understood. Anyway, this is a never-ending discourse, but certainly I really wanted that you be part of this show, and this is certainly a great honor that you came. Before we depart, I'll just have a photo tour. So slightly, it is because we have to keep all the folks what's happening. Yeah, just. अभी टाइम बहुत हो गया सर. मैंने बोला था ना आपको 2 घंटे कैसे निकलेंगे पता नहीं लगेगा. शीतलनाथ कॉन्वर्सेशन यही होता है.
Yeah.
So this is you probably, and
we on a vacation.
Your better half, yeah.
Should-
This is your father.
This is my dad. Yes.
Great personality. And Rakesh ji is there.
And Sushma ji, yes.
Great.
I am wearing one of his clothes now. I mean, at home.
Rakesh ji is related to you probably. Yeah, you are.
No, he's not related, but we very great mentor for
close,
me. I mean,
close buddies, yeah.
Yeah. I visited his home. Yeah, this is my wife and her family.
This is, I just cropped up one photograph because I didn't have any of your photograph. You with your friend
My
or
brother-in-law.
somebody?
My brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law. What's his good name, sir?
Ashok Raina. R.C. Raina, who was the PA to Sheikh Abdullah, his son.
Okay, okay. There's another scientist, Ashok Rana, who's coming to my show. He must be different. This is Rakesh again. Huh?
Okay, yes.
Yes, this is you, your good self. And here is a gathering, some function going on.
This is our family, full family, extended family. With me and my dad and my mom at the center.
Oh, wonderful.
And Hiralaji is at the back.
Who's at the back?
Hiralal Fodar.
Fodar Sahib is there. Sorry.
Yes.
I'll go back. Yes. I can see him now.
Yes. Adalti served Raina.
Okay.
This is my son and my daughter and my wife.
Oh, wonderful. Great. This is again the family sitting together.
This is one of his students, one of his botany students who had come here, and he visited him and his family with him.
That's so great. So wonderful. This is you and probably better half?
Yeah, we had gone to the West Coast camp. In
Kashmiri Overseas West Coast camp. Yeah. It was very recently?
A few months back, yeah. Couple of months
back. He had invited me also, Kodra Sahib, because I didn't have... This was childhood photographs, no?
This is the only youngest thing that I could get.
Very studious. You look very...
Yeah, very studious.
शक्ल से ही लग रहा कि ये बहुत ब्रिलियंट आदमी है.
Son Gobur. This
I
is at LOC, you know that if you zoom it, 1939 Asmanshub Maharaja Banomut Kadul connecting Sharda to Titwal. So pilgrims used to use this bridge.
Oh.
So this bridge has got a line in the center. This bridge has got a line in the center, and that center, that is the line, the LOC, line of control.
Oh, that is the line of actual control. Your mother?
No, this is my mommy, Oh. Badmyon Abrawan.
Badmyon. This is your niece? No.
This is my niece in Dubai.
And this is some old photograph.
My in-laws.
Okay. This is your father, great father.
This is my father, my son, my daughter, my wife, my daughter-in-law.
Wonderful. Great family. Imkom Maharaj.
Maharaj Suyosana, R.C. Kosana, the son, Ashok Raina, and then my brother-in-law, Ashok Tikku.
Acha, Tikku Sahib. You with your family.
This is a selfie with my daughter. We had gone to some vacation, Palm Springs, I think.
Oh, I see. Nice pic. This seems to be Kashmir, Srinagar.
Yeah, actually, Sanjay Tikku, he lives in Barbarshah. He still lives there. So I went in October and I just went to visit him.
He stayed there only. He didn't come.
He's still there. Yeah, he's taking a leadership role. Has been kind of at the forefront, fighting for the Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir.
Oh,
Sanjay Tikku.
Sanjay Tikku sir.
This is Mr. Amma's mother. She used to be our neighbor in Balgarn, and I visited her last year.
There was Omkar Amma's family.
Yeah. So Vijay Amma was not All India Kashmir Samaj.
Acha, हाँ मरा.
This is his mother, Ashok Amma and Vijay Amma. Ashok Amma was Vice Chancellor of Jammu University or something.
Acha, Amma Sahab, Amma Sahab.
He's very nice his mother.
Munchara Gandhinagar Rozan. This
This is my dad's 100th birthday
SP
facilitation
College
by
celebrations.
SP College. SP Colleges.
Remembering this great professor, eminent educationist, you know.
बिल्कुल.
Which was Zabardast Mara photo. Here you are, must be
Younger.
already 17.
I was, he's probably about 20 years old or something.
Your mother and father. Huh?
Yes.
Beautiful. कज महाराष्ट्र तो मत इंपीरियल स्टूडियो तो नहीं वहां तो एक ही था
It's Bangalore, Ramatul.
अच्छा बैंगलोर
I was doing some internship there. That's it.
so that's so wonderful and
You collected
we had
more
a very
pictures than I did. You collected more pictures from Facebook than I
so I went to Facebook because I didn't have anything.
Yes,
People like photographs, that's why, because I put it on the promo sometimes. It creates a bit of interest,
Yes.
they want to know the person and they're out. So, sir, it was a great, you had a wonderful conversation today and many, many wonderful things we came to know about and about your father, about your own contribution. Although, we have the constraints of time, paucity of
Yes.
time, and we cannot go on and on. But yet again, we try to touch, crisscross along every part, every datum and the crest. But it was a great, great learning and a great relating experience, enriching experience for
I've
me.
been watching some of your conversations, and they are very enriching. And thanks for considering me to that standard. But I am not that standard.
No, I don't think you are such a gem. I mean, you are such a wonderful person, and you are so much in-depth knowledge, and you are so well read, you are so well exposed, and you have a life to speak for, and that is something our people, our youngsters, wherever they must get inspiration from, and they must get guidance from. And at the end of the day, you left your job and to do some this change, environmental and this hollowness which is happening in the Western as well as now it's come to the Oriental civilization as well. You're doing human service, sir. I'm really grateful you came. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Good luck. Best wishes.
Thank you,
and good
thank
health.
you, thank you. And our past is our future. It's not about our past. Is not just past. Past is also our. It's applicable for our
future.
future.
Any one-liner you like to say to the
That's what I would like
youngsters?
to say. That's the only one-liner I would say, that our past is not about our past. It's about our future, because it's so rich.
It's about the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that
Thank you.
wonderful
Thank
line.
you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Pleasure. Namaskar.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaskar.
So that was Vijay Dhar Saab, and we had a very wonderful conversation, know about his great father and the Kashmiri diaspora and Kashmiri Overseas Association and his application and his contribution to the decaying this planet, life of the planet, this planet, and to sustainability of the life of this planet, and his whole expertise and his whole his whole learnings of his life, which he's employed and given back to the humanity and to his community, and also his employment of Kashmir Shaivism for the awareness and consciousness, and ultimately utilizing it for this removing these bottlenecks and creating the harmony of this human species back again as it was 100 years back. And that's something great, and we were enriched by his experiences, his wonderful conversations. We had the constraints of this program, so we could not go on and on, but certainly we'll bring him again. So it was a great delight. Thank you very much. Good night.